Phoneme is the smallest possible phonetic unit. Also, it can be a great emoticon. It is a distinct sound we make while speaking, as opposed to a grapheme, which is a smallest unit in writing, like a letter or two. Two letters making one sound are called a digraph. They may correspond with each other, and depending on language it will differ. In English, of course, they are a total mess. When a single phoneme is represented by many graphemes, as in king, queen, cricket, or when a single grapheme represents many phonemes, like famously sea in Pacific Ocean. Homophones are words that are pronounced the same, but are written differently. Homographs are words that are written the same but sound differently. Heteronyms are words that are written the same way but pronounced differently, and heterographs are words that are pronounced the same but written differently. From that fact, we can conclude that there are different phonemes represented as the same grapheme. We could have also googled that. Suffice to say, there are more sounds in English than there are letters. Moreover, sometimes the same phoneme or sound is represented with different graphemes, depending on the language. Like this one, on, in Polish and in French. Or like that one, in English W and Polish W. All of that can lead to mispronouncing foreign words, which can happen to everybody, but depending on how long do you continue to do that, can determine whether you're a monolingual dog or an ass. If you've never heard that Italian CI is pronounced ci, you could easily mistake Da Vinci for Da Vinci. Hence, Polish names. Pronounceable edition. So choose one now. Continue watching and learn secret name of Poles. Or don't. Let's start with an easy one. Kowalski. Although W is a grapheme used in both Polish and English, it represents different phonemes. If you wish to pronounce Polish names, every time you see a W, change it to V. Kowalski or Smithy. But not like this Smithy, like this Smithy. Those two are both homophones and homographs. They are homonyms. If English V and Polish V were words, they would be homophones, different in writing but same in pronunciation. But you knew that already. Yes, you. Because of this guy, Lewandowski. Skipping the second V is okay if you struggle to pronounce it. That is, if you're okay with sounding uneducated. Chlebowski is the same. Wait. Ethan, you have a Polish name, stop putting aged cheese into pierogi! Also, Chlebowski roughly translates as breadman, or a man of bread. Fun fact. Pierogis is a double plural, as pierogi is already plural in Polish. Singular is pieróg. But don't worry, we do the same with chips, and we call them chipsy. Double plural happens when a word borrowed from another language doesn't end on a letter that signifies plurality in the borrowing language. In English, I isn't one, hence pierogis. In Polish, S isn't one, hence chipsy. Now for something a bit harder. For this one, you must become a sci-fi alien. When I first heard this guy's name, I didn't even know it was a Polish name. That is something that happens from time to time. The name is still written the same, but pronounced so differently that it is unrecognizable for Polish speakers. They are written the same, but pronounced totally differently. They are heterophones or homographs. Vysoc'ki is how Americans pronounce it.
He'll charm the mom out of you. It's Jacob Wysoc'ki.
I want to make it clear, I don't want to shame or blame them for doing so. National identity in the USA is different than in Europe. So I also want to insist on either pronunciation as being truly correct. Both have historical precedent, as immigrants must have used this Americanized pronunciation for long enough that it is unrecognizable from original one. So, how do you pronounce this name? Y becomes V. Here I used phonetic I, as there isn't really a sound like that in English. Sock becomes sots. Whenever you see C, you can replace it with digraph ts, as Polish ts is pronounced like English ts, as in nights or in nights. Those two are written differently and have different meanings, but sound the same. They are heterographs that are also homophones. Ki stays as ki, but there is something interesting to note here. Tzki ending in Polish has all letters pronounced, but in English, C and K are gathered into one sound, becoming a digraph. To stop that from happening, we can write that down like this. So it's either this or this, and it is pronounced Vysoc'ki. You can probably understand now why I didn't know it was a Polish name when hearing it from Americans. Names have meanings, like Peter meaning rock. Rock and rock are homophones and heterographs, but rock isn't, although it is similar. Vysoc'ki means the tall one. Some freedom fighters and insurrectionists held that name, as well as generals and some literary figures. But all of those were surnames. What about first names? If you ask a Polish person about their name, they will be generally similar to other European names, but with a twist. Just like Jack becomes Jacques in French, he becomes Jacek in Polish. In Italian, two same letters next to each other are pronounced as one prolonged sound, as in nonna. But in Polish, two letters next to each other are both distinctly pronounced. So when Susanna becomes Zuzanna, you can write it as Zuzanna, if it helps you remember to pronounce both N's. Peter becomes Piotr, but not Piotr unless you want to sound like a very old meme reference, and so on. These names will generally be heteronyms and heterographs at the same time. They don't sound alike and are not written the same. So why bother with giving you this information at all? That's because, as previously stated, they have meaning, and those words mean the same thing. They carry, if you will, the same signified meaning, even if we don't consciously think about it. But are they synonyms? Synonyms mean basically the same thing. And besides things like context, stylistic choice, form of writing, minute differences in meaning that are always there, and intentionality, can be used in place of the other. But does it work for names? Not really, but you can argue with me on that. Both Sophia and Zofia mean wisdom. Would you use one name in place of the other? If you ask a Polish person for their second name, you raise your chance of hearing something truly unfamiliar. Like gościwit, one who welcomes guests, although I've only ever known one person with such a name. Or others, Dobromir, Sławomir, Mirosław, Bożydar, Radosław, Jarosław, Maria. All those names are male names, including the last one. in certain specific circumstances. If your parents are very religious or you are born alive against great odds, you can be a man called Mary, like former Polish president. I don't know how would it work if you wanted to legally change your name, but it sounds like an option with precedent. So, although very slim, there is a chance that you can meet two Polish guys, where one is named Maria, after Holy Mary, and the other, Mściwuj, vengeful warrior. For the last one, let's take a look at this Polish person's name. How to pronounce this name. Andrzej, which doesn't really exist in English, but it is pronounced similarly to S in measure. So here it is represented by phonetic ż. A, as in, hey, I'm walking here. Andrzej. Od, ż. Once again, w, which is pronounced similarly to English W, as in bottle of water. Ek. Written this way so that you don't pronounce it as ik. Andrzej Odżywiołek. Now, someone who understands math can tell me what his research is about. I don't know, but it looks cool. Bonus round? I've heard many times that Japanese speakers have a hard time distinguishing between R and L. Many Polish speakers, although there is no issue in hearing the sound, have a hard time pronouncing English th, as in the, pronouncing it either as de or sometimes ze or even z. I struggle with that somewhat as well. So here's a test for you. Can you hear the difference between those sounds found in Polish language? I tried to make them sound as you would hear them in spoken language. Ć, ć, dzi, dzi, ż, j, ś, ś, c, dz, cz, dż, sz, ż. Fun fact. There are differences in Polish writing between some sounds that even Poles mostly don't recognize anymore. H and h are an example of sound difference that in general is not recognizable to most, although you can still find people that can hear it. Ż and ż, on the other hand, are basically the same now. They only matter for orthography or spelling. I tried to make them sound distinct, but I don't really know how any of those four should sound like in comparison to their pair. So now that you've been tricked into learning what a homonym is, thank you for watching. Have a great day.